Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the Brandon Cruz Daily Fantasy Podcast, where I'm going to look at low plays and strategy specifically designed for GPPs. This is a show for people who are already informed on daily fantasy sports and how these contests operate. If you have any questions related to NASCAR that isn't a stupid question, feel free to shoot my way at BrandonCruzDFS on Twitter. Most importantly, take everything here with a grain of salt and use your best judgment when making entries. Additionally, if you have a gambling addiction, that is not my problem. We're talking on a Wednesday, talking about the trucks on a Thursday, talking about the trucks at Richmond this week. I'm recording this before salaries are out, but that's just how it's going to have to be this week with the whole NFL return and everything like that. I assume there's about 4 of you guys listening to you are probably DFS content creators yourself, so we'll see how well these videos do here. I always get a drop in viewership at this point of year, but let's talk about why you would want to continue playing DFS NASCAR now that the NFL is here. Look, to be honest, there's no real reason to play anything other than the Cup Series. The contest for everything else is pretty poor unless you want to put in a good chunk of money. For example, the $150 tournament pays out top 3 people for the Truck Series. 3 out of 14. Oh, that's horrible. $33 that I've been entering a lot this year. It has 70 people, pays out 18. That's 25%. Yikes, that's a small contest. What about the $8? Hey, man, that is 2,900 people in there, pays out 615. That's 20%. And the top 10 of that contest gets 47% of the prize pool. Yikes, man. These contests are horrible. They always die off at this point of year. But going back to why you'd want to continue, well, you got to remember, there's a lot of people that join these fantasy websites that are just doing it because, football's back, I got nothing else to do. Some of them are NASCAR fans. Some of them do play NASCAR. And so what we see around for the first month of the NFL season is we see smaller NASCAR contests, but sometimes we see overlay either because they don't fill or they fill with very soft competition. I'm not saying the whole contest is soft, but I am saying that there's an influx of people who are barely joining DraftKings. I'll give DraftKings for an example just because they're the ones that offer the Truck Series. But there's people who join up for the NFL season and they're NASCAR fans, and they're like, I got nothing else going on a Friday. I guess I'll join this Xfinity contest. And they have no idea how things are scored. They don't understand how scoring works, how lineup construction works, how any of that stuff works because they're new. They're ignorant to how DFS works. And so, like I said, you get very soft competition. And so that's really the only reason you would want to continue playing NASCAR right now. If you, I don't blame you if you drop off and just play NFL, but I'm just giving you an example of why I continue to play it and why I do the whole season for NASCAR. Just because NASCAR is my sport, the one I focus on the most. And, NFL is just going to be the NFL. That's how it's going to be. Looking at Richmond this week. Let's go check out the sheet. Remember, go to racefortheprize.com to get the fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet that I use and that you need to be using as well. That is racefortheprize.com. Pierce will still be creating it for the rest of the season. This is his own sheet that he uses for his own research, but he lets us see it if you pay him some money so he can go get stuff for his kids. So, help him out if you're still interested in NASCAR. I don't know why you would still play NASCAR and not use this for the rest of the year, especially when you got to spend all that time looking at the stupid NFL stuff. I mean, the fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet is the fastest way to look at anything related to fantasy NASCAR, but hey, that's just me. What are we going to do this weekend? I understand salaries are not out. I understand I can't really break down the punts and everything, but let's look at the track that we need to focus at for this weekend, and that's Gateway. Gateway is the track we're going to look at for Richmond this week. I understand Richmond is not as long as Gateway. They don't have as long straightaways, but it's a short track. I'm using that term loosely. It's a short track. Downforce does not play it doesn't have such as big of a role as it does at Mile and a Half, and it did at Darlington. So when you're going to Richmond this week, you're going to want to look at Gateway. That's the best practice we have. That's the best example we have of who's going to run well. And so just look at the lap times of Gateway. And I'm not going to say them all because I want you to go get the fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet. You can find it all there. But the people you're going to want to look at, is Todd Gillen. Todd Gillen had the best car at Gateway. He got wrecked by Sheldon Creed. Look, Todd Gilliland's going to be the best play. He's probably not going to be priced up because he hasn't technically ran that well. So, look, Todd Gilliland's high. You got to focus on building this lineup around. And then Sheldon Creed would probably be the next because those are the two fastest cars at Gateway. And I don't see them being too expensive to where you can't afford both of them in your lineups. And then looking at who else was quick at Gateway. You got Brett Moffitt, who had the second fastest car on average at Gateway. He finished second at Gateway. You have Sam Mayer, who's starting 25th this week, who should be priced pretty respectively. Maybe 7,000, maybe 8,000. I imagine he's not going to be the 5 that we saw him earlier, but Sam Mayer is a guy you're going to want to look at this week. And, I mean, just look at guys who have done very well on tracks that really hasn't relied on downforce. For example, let me expand on what Pierce wrote in his sheets a couple weeks ago in terms of Todd Gilliland. He was saying that Todd Gilliland tends to do better at tracks where downforce isn't as important, i.e. the short tracks, which is true. I think Todd Gilliland struggles a lot, or not struggles, but I think his strength is on short tracks, on tracks where downforce isn't the key role. Look at guys who also fall in that category. If you want, you can even look at the road courses. I understand it's not the same as a short track, but a road course is you and the machine. It's not downforce intensive. It's however you can drive, and it shows the equipment that you guys have. And that was able to be displayed at Gateway. I mean, look at the people who were getting lapped at Gateway. You don't want to have those people. You don't want to have the people running like 4 seconds off the pace at a short track. You do not want to play those guys. You want to play the fast guys. You want to play the guys who have fast cars who should do better than normal. What is this? Probably the 3rd short track we've gone to this year. Maybe 2nd. Technically short track. So who did you see do better at Gateway than how they normally do it, like the 1.5 miles? Or how did, people do at Gateway compared to how they've been running at Texas and Kansas and stuff? And find disparities in pricing on DraftKings that represent, this guy's a value because I expect him to do better at the short track than he does at these bigger tracks. Or I don't think he can run Timmy Hill this weekend because he's starting 15th, but Timmy Hill, for an example, his brother, even though I believe he got into an accident at Gateway, he got hit by somebody. But that's a team that I would look at to do well at Gateway, and he lucked into a great finish at Darlington. He stayed out, finished 9th. But it's these smaller teams like the Hill Motorsports guys who have an advantage here. Look at a lot of the GMS cars. The GMS trucks should be the best cars this week at Gateway. Who else is quick? Who else surprised us at Gateway here? Let's see. Technically, Austin Wayne Self finished better. No, Austin Wayne Self finished 30th. My bad. Fogelman, he finished 18th at Gateway, but he's starting 16th this week. Trevor Bayne should be back in the car this week. I expect Trevor Bayne to do much better, and I expect the ownership on Trevor Bayne to be much lower than it was last week. He was 60% owned, and it was because of the name. He burned a crap load of people. I expect Trevor Bayne to be lower owned. I expect people to be very hesitant playing him. I like Trevor Bayne this weekend. Nally Decker, I don't hate her. She was very slow at Gateway, but she should be one of the cheaper cars, and I would believe in her car over other people. Jennifer Jo Cobb blew a tire at Gateway and wrecked. Not interested in her. Not interested in Benny. I gotta see what vehicle Hocevar is in. Let me look right fast. Where are you at, Hocevar? He's in the 40 car for Nice Motorsports. If he has a sponsorship, Hocevar should be a lock to do very well. And then, just to create the rest of your lineups, you got to just see who you can afford in salary or who's speaking out to you. Sauter should... Where's Johnny Sauter? He's starting 20th. He's had a rough 2 weeks. I would imagine Johnny Sauter's luck turns around this week, or this race at Gateway. Maybe he has lower ownership. I know a lot of people have been burned by him over the past 2 weeks. You just got to think about who's going to carry ownership, who's going to do well, who's going to hit value, things of that nature. I know I'm kind of speaking vague here, but if you've been playing the Truck Series this whole year, you already know who I like. You already know how to play this. You already have a good starting point of where to go. And if you're new to fantasy NASCAR and you're listening to this, you aren't learning anything because this ain't for you. But that's about it for the Truck Series. Let's yap about Auto Club right fast. I, for one, like Auto Club as a track. I think that's probably one of the better tracks on the NASCAR circuit. I understand why they're going to tear it down, because its location, they got to have a racetrack in California by LA. But, dude, that's a bunch of BS that NASCAR in the past, when asked about North Wilkesboro, when asked about Rockingham, they're like, no, we can't we can't afford to put millions into these tracks. So you just can't. It's too expensive. It's not going to work. We just can't afford to put money into North Wilkesboro. That's it. That'd be a dumb play. We can't afford it. And yet you guys are going to destroy Auto Club and rebuild it from the ground up. Come on. I think I speak for everyone. When we would much rather see North Wilkesboro, when we would much rather see other tracks that are already built, who host short track races across the country, we'd much rather see them than have some racetrack built in Los Angeles or in California that the audience is just not there. The fan base is just not there. People don't care about NASCAR on the West Coast. That's just how it is. I mean, Vegas, Phoenix, there's a reason those are the only two tracks that actually sell out. Auto Club, and it's not because the racing is boring. Auto Club has struggled to sell out because of the location. I know there's people there. There's millions of people near that track, but they don't care about racing. They don't care. Poor decision made by NASCAR there. I disagree with destroying Auto Club. I'd much rather see Michigan destroyed. I think that's the worst track. And it's a shame that there was... I can't remember the other two names, but I believe there was 5 2-mile racetracks built in the U.S. I know it was Michigan, Auto Club, Texas World Speedway, and I think there was 2 other ones, and they didn't last very long. Maybe there was 4. I don't remember. But it's a shame that we lost Texas World Speedway, which was a much better track versus Michigan and Auto Club, because it had much more aggressive banking changes. I mean, the back straightaway was flat at Texas World Speedway. It did not have any type of angle. I think Michigan has about a 6 or 4 degree angle on the back straightaway to help the cars. But I mean, Texas World Speedway was the most badass of the 3 big tracks left. We lost that one this year, and then we're going to lose Auto Club too, and we're going to be left with the worst 2-mile track. Are you kidding me? Michigan sucks. Anyway, that's it for me. Catch me on the next one, focusing on Xfinity this weekend. See ya.